cup of sake.
What is that?
Oh my god.
That is adorable.
Sake. Which is
It's in like a juice box.
it is, and it's only like $5. And
I
it's
love
really
everything
good.
about that.
Yeah.
If you go to Cobra and get that shit, it's like $11, but you can get it at Whole Foods for like $5.
Got a cute little lucky dog on
Yeah.
the
Put in
box.
my-
Oh, it even has like
It comes with straw.
It has a sippy straw.
That's amazing.
Got my little juice box.
I love it.
Wait, does the straw have a little bend?
Oh, no.
Bummer.
It's not fun.
Oh, let me crack this guy open. All right, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers
To 50.
to 50.
In 50.
And this is the extent of what
beyond.
we're doing for episode 50.
We had grand plans.
Yeah.
Interview. I think there was some like we were going to go somewhere, record from somewhere.
Yeah. Lots of ideas.
We were going to go to Detroit.
That was it. We were going to go to
But
Detroit.
then it turned out it was also movement time.
Yeah.
So let's not go to Detroit.
No.
Yeah. We have done nothing. We got cider and sake. That's it.
That's all you need.
Craig, what'd you bring?
I just have water.
Water.
Hold on. Look.
You should
Yeah.
have something more than water. That's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
This is 50. Do you want a cider?
Yeah. Let me get a cider off if you don't mind.
Not
I won't finish it.
That's fine. I'll finish it for you.
All right.
There we go.
This is like a delicious cider, right? Not like
This is not like my normal cider.
not like
Yeah.
sand in a can.
No, this is. All right, now let's do this again. Now everyone, a raise.
Cheers.
Yes,
Cheers.
cheers. Oh god.
Tink,
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 tink, tink.
tink.
Yep.
That's delicious. That doesn't even taste like a cider. That just tastes like a good pale ale.
Yeah.
It's not very fruity. It's just
Oh,
like
no,
a
no, no,
light
yeah.
ale tasting. That's delicious.
Mm.
I feel like the days of the super sweet, over the top ciders are kind of waning. Like even like sort of traditional cider manufacturers aren't doing that anymore.
I'm not in the loop.
I am because I
don't
have to drink these now, and I hated that. So I'm very excited about this new phase.
I could see that. Yeah.
So how's that sake?
The sake is delicious.
I want a sake juice
I
box.
should have brought more. I felt bad. Not sharing with the group.
I just didn't know it existed. There's something also
Next time I'll
just
bring them.
like the fact that it is a juice box. Like a kid could definitely just be like, "Oh, that's my juice box."
I've walked around Bloomfield drinking one of those for sure. Yep.
All right, so we didn't do anything special except
Mm-mm.
for, I guess, drinks.
We're just going to talk about Digitac 2 for the next hour and a half.
Ooh. Right into it. Damn.
I mean, it's on brand, but
Buckle in, folks.
wow,
Yikes. Whiplash.
Jesus. I mean, go for it. Yeah, go
Fallen
for
into
it.
a hole.
No,
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Digitac 2.
Okay.
I don't either. It's stereo.
I feel like so much.
End of story.
It's funny. You say it feels like it's been 50 years since we've, seen Nick or anything. I was thinking the same thing today. I was like, it feels like it's been forever
Yeah.
since our last episode. It's only been like, what, 2.5 months since we last recorded, but
It's still a long time.
it
I don't think it's been
feels
that long.
longer. Really?
No, I think it's been like a month, a little over a month.
What was it like? I think March 31st was when we recorded.
Really?
Yeah.
God damn, a lot happened in the last, well,
Yeah.
2 months then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It took me a while to edit, so there's a little bit of lollygagging on that end. So, but still,
In those 2 months,
Yeah.
you guys have done some shows.
hmm
Um,
Went to a con,
did
Yeah.
continue
Continuum
Continue Con?
Continue Con,
I can never say it.
the Continuum Con.
Continue Con.
Continue con.
Maybe it's worth explaining what the hell that was to our listeners. 'cause
Okay.
I'd never heard of it before. Was this the first con?
No.
No, they've been doing it for a while now.
Really?
Yeah. At least 5 or more years, right? If not
I think
more.
so. Yeah, yeah. And this is the first time it was in Pittsburgh, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're usually in Europe. They're usually like in.
Oh, okay.
The last one was Paris.
Yeah.
I
That's
think.
why it's been
and then
off
Portugal,
my
like
radar.
Lisbon before that, maybe.
Yeah. And it's for the Haken Continuum. It's very specifically, that's where the name comes from.
Yep.
It's the Continuum Con, Continue Con. It's a portmanteau. They sort of squish them together. Very clever. And this is not a huge scene. So this is, all of the major players in the scene come all the way down to Haken himself. What's his?
Lippold.
Lippold Haken is there. Egan is there.
Egan, yeah.
And Christoph
It's Duquesne, isn't it?
Is it?
Is it pronounced differently? That's how it's spelled.
It's how it's spelled, but I thought I heard it pronounced differently.
Oh, like it probably.
Yeah. But they were like the sort of luminaries that were there, and then there was other people hanging out and a couple more performances, a couple of users. There was the dude from Chicago who did the Pink Panther theme.
Oh yeah, Mark.
Wright? Mark
think.
Mark something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But super nice. Everyone's super nice. It was like deep dive into every aspect of Continuum. Like it was really like part almost like academic seminar, I would say.
Yeah.
Like there was like really some like really interesting stuff. Oh, I guess we should say that the person who was hosting it is Russ from Evaton. That's why it was in Pittsburgh. At least for now. Russ is moving. He's going to Portugal.
Yep.
But for now, he's still in Pittsburgh, and he organized this and had it here in Pittsburgh at a Carnegie Library. One of the Carnegie libraries in Carnegie, which is very confusing. So confusing, in fact, that some people went to the wrong Carnegie Library the night of, and because the Thursday night before, Russ had put together a like sort of pre-con show, and that's where Ed performed, Christoph performed, Mark performed, but also Nick, myself, and Sean Ruderman.
Yep.
And Sean did like a not standard techno set.
Yeah, definitely not like his normal techno sets.
It was fucking great. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was fun.
I missed out. I was somewhere else.
Evidently.
I was in Switzerland crashing a noise fest. I don't even know if you want to call it a fest. Noise show, noise exhibit. It was pretentious. I would have rather been at the Carnegie Library show.
This was arguably the opposite of pretentious. This was just like hardcore nerd shit, and with a lot of nerds, and like the show was a lot of people, except for Nick, Sean, and I. A lot of people were on continuums, or continuums and other things. Like the one guy's name I'm blanking on. He sort of finished the night, had a theremin and a continuum.
Oh yeah.
Super nice dude. But yeah, good set. I mean, it was, and all of the sets were really interesting. They were all pretty like ambient, a lot of textures, but it was well received. I mean, people that were there seemed fired up for it.
Yeah.
And Nick's set was astounding.
I missed yours because of push 3. I'm sorry.
I mean, do you want to explain what you did with your set?
Oh, with my set that I played, I was trying to use push 3 standalone, which I learned a hard lesson about how to transfer sets over to it the right way. But I was playing most of what is an album that I'm working on. I was playing Ableton Clips, Ableton Synths, and then an Electron Analog 4 to play some stuff alongside it too. It was a fun setup. It worked pretty well. I was worried I would not have enough material, but I ended up going over, and it was fun.
How long was the set?
I played, it was a little over 40 minutes maybe.
That's pretty big set.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think I was given 30, what he said, like 30, and then play like as long as you want. So it kind of worked out. But yeah, it's fun. It's the first time I'd played in like a year and a half or something.
Had it been the Andy Stott show you played before that? Oh,
Collision.
No, Collision. That's right.
But yeah, it was a fun time. It kind of proved, it was the first time set I'd played without like a drum machine too in a long time. Because the new stuff I'm working on doesn't have drum machine drums in it at all.
Plus, you got tempted.
Oh, I did. So the sound engine in the Hawken Continuum and the Expressive Osmos is the Egan Matrix, which is developed. It's Lippold made like the code that runs on the DSP chip, and then Ed made the Egan Matrix that uses the DSP chip to like do physical modeling, synthesizer stuff. It is holy shit. I've been diving into that the past since that show, and it's insane. It's fucking crazy synthesizer. It's a big mod matrix. Some parts of it are deeply intimidating. And you can get like, for as much as I think we hear like really sweet like instrument recreations sometimes, it can get disgustingly fucked up. Just the feedback potential alone when you think about it with a matrix like that is pretty crazy. There's a lot of weird shit in there.
So you could get those sounds out of Continuum if you were so inclined.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I'm kind of like low key trying to like, I would love to trade my Oberheim OB6 for a Continuum right now.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to see what you did with it.
I love using the module though. It's one of the main synths I'm using to finish this album and this next live set I have coming up right now.
Well, I was there. I saw that you held out a full 2 days. It looked like you were going to be able to go the whole time, and then you're like, well, I mean, if I get it now and he's got one, it's saving shipping. I saw the gears in motion. Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if he has one. And then of course he had one, so I was like, all right, I'll take this thing. I didn't touch it for a week or two, and then I started to dive in, and holy shit. I will say that the iPad editor was like crash city for me immediately. I have like one of the kind of newer iPads, and it didn't take it all. The Max for Live editor works great, but I saw that they were previewing at Superbooth some level of update for either the iPad or the editor, and I'm super curious about those right now because it's a deep and weird synthesizer. It'll take years to get used to. It's weird because they even kind of recommend, they're like, just use the presets for a long time. Like, don't try to edit this too much. And I get it. It's kind of like you can play a pretty authentic performance on a trumpet without resetting that preset, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Some of it is like their whole theory is kind of it's about playing versus editing sometimes, and like what you can do with these sounds. They're like, yeah, just use them on whatever. So it's been interesting for sure.
So the stuff that Christoph was showing that they were working on, will you be able to use that when that's ready? If
I pull the latest repo, I think there's some way to get access to that beta. I'm not entirely sure. But what Dave's referring to is like Christoph did some stuff on the latest Dune with Hans Zimmer, and some of the spectral resynthesis stuff that he made is kind of like taking a make noise spectrophone but making it polyphonic. And he made this crazy front end that he showed during the con that kind of outlined the way you manage samples, and can like he had this sample of someone speaking Japanese and was able to import it and like play that back polyphonically, like with spectral resynthesis. And it's that was part of the thing that I think really pushed me over the edge. And you and I, that's when we were like, okay, this is kind of intense.
Yeah. And I'm like 99% sure Christoph's set on Thursday night used that.
Oh.
He was performing and doing a bunch of stuff with that synthesis technique, and it sounded otherworldly.
Yeah.
It lost some of the vocal quality. You're like, you kind of forgot that this started out with, a vocal sample, and it just not like tore apart like crunchy or fucked up, or it was beautiful. I mean, it still sounded like this really beautiful, rich sound.
Yeah, because that was part of like for this set, Push 3 has this really good MPE stuff, which is multi-polyphonic expression, which means like each note and a chord you play can have like control data of 3 parameters, I think. And so I wanted to use that for this ContinueCon because that's kind of like what their whole thing is. And I was like, okay, I'll take this opportunity. And that really spun me down a deep wormhole of MPE shit. And I'm like relatively obsessed with using it right now. And also like kind of like treading that line so it doesn't sound like always like some weepy violin line, and that it's like something that you don't necessarily know is being used outright. Like that's kind of what I'm looking for with it. Like how can I play this in such a way that it doesn't like immediately sound like this,
right.
But still like lets me make things a little more living. So yeah,
we did a better job because I didn't get the brief, and I was like, all right, this is going to be like more atmosphere, going to be more ambient, but like my idea of what that sounds like. And I guess Russ later was like, people had some notes about my set. I can't tell if Russ was being polite or just sort of paraphrasing in a polite manner. But there was that was interesting sort of response. And in my mind, I'm like, this is like the most beautiful, lush thing I've ever made. But apparently that's not actually what I did. But whatever. I tried my best, and that's what's important.
That is what's important. Yeah. I can't wait to see the video, partially because I missed your set because of the Push 3 lesson that I learned. And because like there are certain things I played live that I want to put on the recording of this record now. And I'm like, okay, like I kind of need that reference. I want to hear this again one more time. Because there was a melody that I was stuck on for like 2 months. And I figured it out like while I was playing that set. It just like kind of popped out. And I was
awesome.
like, oh, that's it right fucking there. Yeah, it was a weird kind of moment. I just went for it.
You played it cool. There was none of like you weren't like holy shit, look what I just made.
Yeah, it was one of the playing a violin patch on the push 3 thing. I was like, I've been like stuck on this forever, but I know I can like play this in key because I really like the isometric keyboard. Like the Continuum's cool, but like I really like isometric keyboards, and the push 3 gives me like enough of that kind of play that like I don't really need a Continuum. I love the sound engine, but I kind of like the isometric shit. I'm not a piano player.
And I think it's not even so much for piano players. It's more of people who play like fretless stuff. And I know that's true. Why Russ was really keen on it. And that translated well. Theoretically, I should be into it playing cello, but I'm just like, I look at it, I'm just like, oh, it's just a lot. Like I think if I was going to go anywhere, it would be getting an Egan Matrix too, and because I think like even though a lot of those skills translate, it's very clear that this is a instrument you have to learn.
Oh yeah,
it is not like a toy that you're going to sit there and fiddle with. And watching people who are really good at it play it really well, it's like, oh shit, that's amazing. Because like I go up and I'm just like, whoop, 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 look at me, and it's like, oh, that's right, this is actually really hard to do. You know, like when you're a kid and like you sit down in front of like a drum set for the first time, you're just hitting and smashing at things and nothing sounds right. You're like, oh shit, this is fucking hard. And I think the Continuum is the same thing.
Yeah, because we've seen Russ playing one of those for years now, and we've never been like, oh, like it was always too big of a leap. But they're also like really not cheap.
Yeah.
So the module makes it much more approachable, but still also not cheap. But it's a polyphonic MIDI synth too, so you got to take that into account.
But yeah, if you get the opportunity to go to ContinueCon, it's even if you don't have one or don't intend to get one, it's a good time. Everyone there is super nice. Also, you're just deep dive on some random synthesis topic, or a video tour of Hans Zimmer's bathrooms. That was a weird detail. So yeah, that was the first big thing, and then recently. BXC, like a local dirtbag promotion company, put on a show, and the headliner was really interesting. It was Nick Strove, a young IDM artist, had their entire studio out. I needed to use that 16 channel mixer from Russ.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, they're probably doing some weird routing from like, no, they had that much gear. I was very impressed.
Jesus.
Bringing and like, they're from Canada. Like it wasn't like I
was gonna ask, holy shit, how'd they get that over the border?
I don't know. I didn't get the full breakdown of like the logistics of this, but it was just like it was wild to see that much gear in a live setting that isn't an old 70s like Yanni performance where they've got like stacks of keyboards. Yeah, those days of like the really elaborate electronics stage setup is just it's less and less. And to see someone do that and do it well, it was a great set.
I'm trying to bring way less with me anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of
like pushing a controller.
That same show I also played, and it was Polyend Tracker and the Deluge, and that was it.
Yeah,
I think from now on out, it's going to be that combination, Tracker and Deluge, and like I'm probably going to get to it at some point. I'm real tempted by the Tracker Plus. Swap out the Tracker and put that in, and keep going from there. But yeah,
you have to.
Oh yeah, it's all pluses. I mean, it's a little expensive, but like not outrageously so. One of the other acts, M27, I think he's from LA. His set was like live drum and bass, like live PA drum and bass. Yeah. 2 trackers and a DJ mixer.
Okay.
Polyend trackers or like?
Yeah, Polyend trackers. Yeah. Just 2 trackers and a DJ mixer. It sounded great.
Were they MIDI sync the trackers? I'm curious. Did you?
I don't know. I didn't ask them. They were super nice. If you, again, any of these acts, if you get a chance to see them, 100% recommend either Nick Strove or M27. I don't think actually. I think they may have just been doing it. Doing it live.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what big things recently. However,
big things.
However, Greg, I believe you were just on a trip.
I was on a trip. Most of it was not related to music. But yeah, I went over to France for a couple weeks and then ventured over to Switzerland for a few days. Checked out some vintage gear and a weird noise show with the creators of something called Le Pianograph, which I had never heard of before. And it's a weird synth that has a built-in visual engine that can play visuals depending on what mode you're in and what type of sound you're playing. It has a built-in drum machine too, and it'll base it, the visuals that it can project will be based off of like the rhythms you have going on and the type of sounds that you're hitting on the keys and some other buttons and foot pedal. The guy that invented it didn't do a very good job of explaining it. Well, first off, he was explaining it in French, and I was having this translated to me.
So they may have been doing a very good job.
Not so much, because he only talked about it for like 30 seconds.
Oh, never mind.
And then basically he was just inviting people to just come up and play on it.
Yeah.
And that was cool for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
After an hour and a half of people just button mashing this thing and just randomly hitting shit, I was like, I've had enough.
Yeah. So when you said this was a show, I thought there were like actual like acts that had prepared materials.
There were beforehand. That was I kind of skipped ahead. That was the headliner. That was the purpose of the event. Leading up to that, there was a few ambient performances, and there was also a weird interactive Buddha box performance where we were all invited to gather around in a circle and select a Buddha box and pick a sound and a location to put the Buddha box in the room. And then we went round and round, and you got to move someone else's Buddha box to a different place or change the sound. And
like a white elephant party.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you just kind of created this constantly shifting, immersive 3D sound room using Buddha boxes.
So is this one of those things that sounds way better on paper than it does in real life? Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Because those are real tiny. Like they're even
tiny. Most people didn't grasp how to change the sounds in the first place, so you just had a lot of overlap of the same sound going, out of sync. And it was, again, that was fun for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Doing it for 45 was a bit much.
Oh, so that violates the first rule of a noise set. Can't be more than 15 minutes.
Yeah, I
10 is
agree.
ideal.
But this was all taking place in a wallpaper museum in Switzerland, in collaboration with the Electronic Music Museum.
Wait, hold on. You gotta slow down. Wallpaper museum.
Yes, sir.
So do they have wallpaper exhibits? Is there a permanent wallpaper collection?
There is.
Is it just wallpaper on the wall with a little sign explaining what it is? Or is there like samples? Is there like
all
history of wallpaper?
Yes, there was some historical pieces with explanation. There was little pieces of it. There was entire rooms that were done in these panoramic wallpaper sections that apparently are very rare and expensive.
Is there like priceless wallpaper?
Yes.
That's blowing my fucking mind right now.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like 3 floors of this. So just, lots of wallpaper and exhibits. And then mixed in with that was vintage synth and vintage drum machine exhibits that were loaned out from the Electronic Music Museum for little different exhibitions that were going on there, I guess, throughout the week or the month. Yeah, I got a lot of like TR-808s sitting around, Juno 6s, a lot of tape delays.
Was it presented in a sort of like a curated museum, or is it just
some
like
of it
out
was, and some of it was just out to use for part of the exhibit. Yeah, some of it was in glass cases, some of it was just sitting on a table to be used. It was neat. I had more fun wandering around looking at the synths and the wallpapers than I did the actual music events,
right?
Because a lot of it was just a bit too pretentious and went on for too long. I thought the Buddha box thing was cool, but it was being presented in a way that it just felt like it was being taken way too seriously, and not everyone in the room got it. It could have been a little more loose, I guess you could say. And it would have been more fun. And also the people running the wallpaper museum, I have to shit talk them a little bit because they were just dicks. So I'll keep this brief, but we got the invitation from the Electronic Music Museum that this was happening. So my partner and I, we head out to the middle of some small village in Switzerland, and we finally find this museum, and we go in, and we're like, we're here for the show, and they're like, great, it'll be 16 francs.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh crap, we don't have francs, we have euro and we have USD. And they're like, we don't take either of those. And she was like, well, we could maybe take euro, depends on how much you have. And we're like, we have a 50. And she's like, well, I can't break that. And I'm like, well, that sucks. I was like, well, how about a credit card? She was like, no. And she's like, but I was like, how about I PayPal you? She was like, no. And I was like, how about Venmo or I'm sorry, Venmo? And she was like, no, we have this app. I forget what it was called. It was something with a Z, but you have to have a Swiss bank account to use it, which I didn't have. And she didn't explain this. So I jumped through all these hoops to install this thing, make an account, and then try to use it. And I was like, I don't have a Swiss bank account to link to this. Yeah, that was it. I thank you. I knew it was Z something, but I was like, I don't like. What do we do here? And this went on for like 20 minutes. Like we drove an hour to get there.
Way to not give up, by the way.
Yeah,
I definitely would have been like,
I did. Allison did not. Like I'm trying to speak English to them, and finally I'm like, okay, clearly they're not letting us in. So finally I did give up, and I was on my way out the door. And then the owner, I guess, of this place came from behind the desk and started talking to my partner in French, and came to the conclusion that they will let us in, but they're going to give us a piece of paper as an IOU, and that we have to scan this barcode, go to their website afterwards, and try to pay in some fashion that works with their website, or come back the next day and give them francs. And we're like, sure. So the next day we actually did try to do this.
Bravo, because this doesn't sound like anything about this is binding at all.
Yeah.
You could have just dipped.
Well, I did.
Okay.
We ended up crashing it for free. And but we did try to use the barcode thing. None of it worked. And again, it just tried to take us to Swiss banking.
So I don't know anything about finances. I'm very bad with money. The only thing I know about Swiss bank accounts is in the movies when a villain is trying to get a ransom paid to them.
Yes.
They have it transferred to their Swiss bank account.
That's it.
Is there any other like legitimate reason to have a Swiss bank account?
Yeah.
They seem to think so.
That's how you buy Swiss Army knives.
Yeah. And swatches.
Yeah. And chocolate.
Topical reference, Swatch. Is that okay? I was gonna say it's definitely not a company anymore.
And it is, because I saw a lot of swatches over there. That's why it was fresh in my
Holy
brain.
shit.
A lot of swatch shops. Yeah. There was even one right next to the Geiger Museum.
Wow.
Yeah. Or Giger. I'm sorry. I say Giger like Moog. I always say it wrong, but I don't care.
What's the correct pronunciation of Geiger?
Giger.
Geiger. Okay.
But for some reason, I've always leaned towards saying Geiger.
I feel like everyone, at least in the Western Pennsylvania, does.
Pierogies and Giger.
Yes. Usually in the same sentence, just like that. Yeah.
So
how was that music? How was that?
The museum? Oh, the Giger Museum?
Yeah. I'm saying I'm trying. It's not coming out naturally.
Yeah,
because it's been Geiger for almost 50 years for me, so it's very difficult to change.
Yeah, I guess that's just a Pittsburgh thing that we all say it that way. I don't know why, but yeah, that was amazing. And we crashed that for free also.
Wow.
We walked in and we stood around for 10 minutes and no one was at the desk. So we said, fuck it. And we just started walking around and we spent like 2 hours in there. And then when we were leaving, there was finally someone behind the desk. And I was like, I get the vibe they just don't care there. Like it was like the complete opposite vibe than the wallpaper museum.
You could probably pass the test. They were
I guess
hey,
it was filled with weirdos, and I felt right at home. And it was kind of the first place in Europe that I felt right at home.
Yeah. They only charge the squares.
I was going to say that's a square tax.
I did spend a lot of money at the bar. I think that makes up for it.
I'm sure.
Bought tons of cheese and hot chocolates, and so.
Was it like alien themed cheese?
No, but some of the drinks were.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, imagine a fondue, like an alien fondue.
Just boils right through the pot down through the table. Yeah.
Shit writes itself.
So wait, did you get anything from the museum that was like had like geeker stuff on it? I'm really this is not coming out naturally at all.
I did not. I wanted to spend a lot of money, but like the trip kind of tapped me out.
Fair.
And so I was trying to not buy things. I didn't get to check out a single synth shop while in Europe.
It's probably for the best.
All of them were only open on days that I wouldn't be in the town. Like I spent a lot of days in Paris, but none of those days were days that this what is it, Modular Square?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Modular Square.
Yeah, Modular Square was closed. There was a couple shops in Switzerland that were all closed on the days I was there. So I missed out on that, but I was fully prepared to blow money and try to figure out how to bring a synth back.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pianograph. That thing is weird. I guess look into it if you're interested. I really can't explain how it functions because I didn't get a very thorough explanation.
And you left before Superbooth.
I did. Not only did I miss Superbooth, there was something else that was happening very close to one of the weird little villages that I was in on the western side of France. And I'm drawing a blank now, unfortunately. But yeah, there was something that was happening like a week after. Like I was over there the week that it wasn't happening, and then when it started to happen, I was on the other side of France in the Alps, so I missed out. But yeah, there was a little synth convention of some sort happening.
This is honestly, this is probably all for the best. you would just getting that text from you or email or telegram of, listen, mistakes were made.
Yeah.
I need you to come get me. Where are you at? I'm in the Alps.
It's like, dude, I don't have Zelle. I can't figure out how to bail you out. This is all fucking crazy.
All right, just give me your Swiss bank account number. So in summary, you missed 2 synthesizer conventions that you could have gone to.
Yeah.
If you would just plan things like just a little bit differently.
Yeah.
You could have gone to Superbooth.
I could have.
Fuck.
And I think a lot of people were surprised that I wasn't there because like they saw that I was in France, and like I had some people message me and they're like, "Hey, I'm at Superbooth. Are you here? I saw that you're in Europe." I was like, "No, I came back like 2 weeks before it started. Unfortunately, I like just missed it." But
it did look pretty cool, and
it did.
And I was only half joking when I said and asked in the Discord, like, "Do we need to go to one of these? Like, should we plan to go next year?" And I kind of think we do because. Again, this is probably one of the big topics we want to discuss is Superbooth this year, 2024. It just kind of looks like a fun time.
It looks a hell of a lot more entertaining than NAMM. I'll say
Yes. It almost seems like all of the really fun parts of KnobCon cranked to 11.
Yeah.
It's certainly where all the shit seems to drop now. It's the biggest event for drops like that for Eurorack and synth gear. It's what people gear up for.
So yeah, I mean, we've done this in the past of the good, the bad, and the ugly for different events that happen, things we wanted to talk about. So that's my format for my notes.
My format was a little bit different. I was talking to Nick before you,
but not me. You didn't tell me about this.
I forgot. You didn't get this memo.
Jesus Christ! This is just like that show at ContinueCon all over again.
I have my own format too.
Yeah, we kind of we're freestyling this. Episode 50, baby. It's like episode 1, you know? We
have learned nothing.
Shit gets even more loose. Mine is want, cool, and then not.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which I didn't even have anything for not.
So
there's nothing like we were saying earlier, there's like shit I ignored, but there's nothing that I was like clowning outright. Like
I have things I'm clowning on.
I didn't have enough patience or time to like dig through some of the stuff to even complain about. I was like, some of this is so fucking boring that I don't even want to talk shit on it. So I just tried to focus on stuff that like caught my attention.
Yeah. I have a really shitty job, so I could do my job while watching literally anything tagged with Superbooth.
I even opened up Sonic State before I came here, and I'm like, what did Donner put out this year? You know, like, because remember we clowned their one fucking horrible thing that probably never came out, but yeah.
So how do we want to start? Do we want to start out positive?
Let's start out positive. And do we all have like, I don't know, top 3?
I have a top 3.
I can go there.
I got a top 3.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do this in reverse order.
Okay.
Like, 3, 2, and then 1 being the best.
Yeah.
Wait, what? So wait. Start with our third.
So like bronze, silver, gold.
Okay, start with bronze. Okay, I gotta do it. Okay, I got it. I'm ready. This is gonna be tough.
This is a lot.
Who's going first?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. For my bronze, I have the Body Synths Metal Fetishist.
Really? That's your bronze.
That's my bronze.
That's my gold.
Ooh.
But go on.
Okay. I feel like I don't want to talk about it if it's your gold.
No. By all means.
You know what?
We'll discuss.
I don't even know much about this. I kind of like glossed over this.
So it's a noisy percussion digital synth, but it also has like an acidy sound from the demos that I was getting.
Weird.
And it also has an internal, like a Turing machine like lockable random sequencer that can also be sequenced externally, but amazing overdrive and distortion. Like all of the sounds sounded fucking incredible. And even though it seems like it's heavily geared towards percussion type sounds, it seems like you could really create like grimy, noisy pads out of it too, or just textures.
It's pretty big, right?
No, well,
Yeah.
I'd say it's kind of like a small
24, maybe.
Oh no, it's not. It's a standalone.
It's a little box, little desktop.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was a fucking module.
No, it's
My bad.
It's semi-modular.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's not modular. Yeah.
So that's all the notes I have on it. And this was my bronze, so I didn't spend too much time on it, Greg. I'm going
I
to
can elaborate
pass the
a bit,
baton
sure.
on
Who
to
makes
you.
it again?
Body Synth.
Body Sense, who I don't know that much about.
The name, that name alone, Body Synth. I was like, I dig that. And
Yeah.
then the box itself, just metal fetishist. I was like, I'm so into this. Before I even heard a demo, I was like, you have my attention.
Yeah.
You know, they're based out of Berlin, Germany.
Mm.
And so I guess that name is fitting.
Take that, Germany.
Yeah. Bunch of freaks.
Love you, Germany.
Yeah, I have that in my notes as well. That it's grimy, nasty, gabbertastic.
Yeah.
Ooh. Does look cool.
I was really impressed with how much of the sort of like that squeaky, squelchy resonance too,
Mhm.
on top of a really metallic sound. And I think that was the thing that was like made me kind of like take more interest in it than other things. So I'm like, that's a good combination to stick the landing on.
What impressed me the most is when he said that the entire thing is digital.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it does not sound that way to me.
Not
Like
at all.
it has a very like analog griminess, like a old Mackie mixer cranked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it can get very saturated sounding. It doesn't sound like cold or digital. Even though one of the two distortion modes has downsampling, it just kind of makes it more square wave-ish, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, and kind of
Right.
corrupted. Yeah, the two distortion modes.
Rust and corrosion.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
rust and corrosion. I was like, that's a nice touch.
And they sound like that. I mean, this is not just like coming up with a cool name for something that's bland.
Mhm.
Like these live up to the names.
Yes, I agree, and it's entirely generative.
Yeah.
It has the two random generators, like Dave was saying. It's based around the Turing machine.
Like a shift register.
Yeah, it can be locked to 2, 4, 8, 10, 16, or 32 step. And those randomness can be assigned to trigger probability and step modulation for pitch and filter cutoff. It can also process audio through the filter and the distortion. It has an audio input. So yeah, I loved every demo that I listened to.
Question though, did you get a price?
Yes.
I didn't see a price.
So he said that he didn't have a price.
Right.
But when I started, and there is nowhere to pre-order it in the United States yet, but there were some places in other countries where the
Nice.
pre-order looks to be around 420-ish,
Yeah, this says
Holy
585 Canadian.
which I think breaks down to like 420 USD, right?
Yeah, 429.
I thought it was gonna be more than that.
It's a lot, you know what I mean? It's this little
Yeah.
self-contained noise box
Yeah.
for barely over 400, which I am into.
That's cool.
Same here. Really cool.
So your bronze, my gold?
That was my
Okay.
bronze, yeah.
All right.
Damn.
So who's next with their bronze?
Take it away, Nick.
Go my bronze. So there were two things that I want eventually. That's the bronze is really the Sotonix voltage controlled matrix mixer.
Mm.
They managed to make a voltage controlled stereo matrix mixer that isn't completely huge, and you can expand on it with expander modules that add channels. So by default, it's got 2 stereo ins, and then I forget how many outputs, and you can add expander channels to add more inputs. I've wanted a voltage controlled stereo matrix mixer for a minute now. Thought it would just be a huge fucking design if anyone made one, and
Is this-
Sotonix managed to do it.
Is this a module or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a module.
So is it all jacks? Is it all basically just like inputs and VCA inputs, or how are they doing the voltage control on
Oh
it?
yeah, there is an individual like voltage control jack that controls it in stereo, so
Mhm.
it's not one for each channel.
Mhm.
Like below each knob kind of
Okay.
thing. So they managed to do it in a not huge space. So I'll probably swap my the AI synthesis matrix mixer out with that, I
'Cause
think
that
it's
one's
the
just
same
mono,
price.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's stereo, but it's not voltage controlled.
Okay.
And that really ups the ante for me quite a bit. So that was my bronze because I saw that and was like, oh, someone finally did it.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's even done it, and I just imagined it would be fucking huge.
How many HP does this take up? The basic module.
Oh, I think it was 20 some.
That's not too
And
bad
then it was
for
like
what
a
it does.
4, 6, or 8 HP expander. Yeah, so I wasn't mad at it. And I like Satonics. I've built their kits before, 2 of their kits, and their shit's good. So yeah, it's my bronze. Something I will probably buy when it's out.
This is available as a kit?
I don't know yet. Good question.
Because if that's just a shitload of jacks and that could be like also pretty inexpensive too.
I would bet by the size it's probably surface mount, like guts and jacks. That would be awesome because their kit was really straightforward to make too. So yeah, I'm game whenever it comes out.
Excellent. Greg, what's your bronze?
My bronze is a weird little thing that I kind of found last minute while I was taking notes. It's from a brand called Analog Sweden, and it's the Krum Drum 2.
Oh,
I saw that. Yeah.
Didn't know there was 2.
So yeah, I believe last year we discussed the OG Krum Drum. And now they've taken it further. It has like this beautiful interface now. Like if you want to just look for the picture of it, because it's hard to describe, but I will try for our listeners. It has like almost like this weird mid-century modern space age vibe to it, and it just looks beautiful. It looks like something out of like A Clockwork Orange or something, or Space Odyssey. It's really neat. It's 4 channels. 3 are drum channels. 1 is a melodic voice channel. And each channel has 6 different instruments, if I understood correctly, how they were describing this. Sort of like the Metal Fetishist, it's designed to be completely generative. Like all the patterns, like you just twist knobs and it starts generating rhythmic patterns for these voices. And then you just kind of lock those in place. It has performance sliders that affect all channels. The randomness if you want to, so you can like do weird performance that affects everything. It also has sliders for onboard effects. And it's semi-modular. It has CV ins and outs, trigger ins and outs. And you can take snapshots of each patch and then sequence your snapshots.
Ooh.
So you can have this thing like going through different drum patches, which I thought was a nice touch. And you can daisy chain them, sequence them.
Are they persisted? Like when you turn it off, do they save those snapshots?
I believe so. He didn't
cool.
specify in the demos, but yeah, it's not something that I would consider like a go-to drum machine or like, you know, like anything that you're going to sit down and do like 909 type pattern creation on this thing. Like this is like a sit down and just explore and jam and make weird fucking percussive sounds and textures, all within a very beautiful interface, in my opinion. It looked really nice. I wanted to touch it. You know what I mean? Looking at whereas like I feel like most drum machines that come out these days, I was just like, they just look either boring or intimidating. You know, this looked very inviting to me. As someone that loves mid-century modern style, I was like, that's gorgeous. You know? They did a good job. They said no ETA when it'll be out, but they said if they're lucky, it'll be by the end of the year.
Was there a price on it?
Not see a price anywhere. So, but I imagine it can't be too much because it's not a super robust device.
Right.
You know,
it can't compete with the heavy hitters.
Yeah, and it's not. It doesn't seem like it's trying to.
So, but price-wise,
it
definitely needs to reflect that.
But that was my bronze.
Nice. So we're going to silver now?
Time for silver.
All right, so my silver, I'm going to start with a tangent.
Nice.
So one of the things that I noticed what was kind of weird was, and I have this under the note, magnets. How do they work? There were 3 different things that were on display that had magnets as a component of them. It was the Soma Flux, the Coma electronic chroma plane, that big giant silver surface thing, and my silver, which was the Korg acoustic synthesis phase 8.
Oh yeah.
Which does have electromagnetic pulse, can be sent in response to a trigger. But it was just like, fuck, magnets are like, they're real hot this year. They're trending hard.
Yeah.
We talked about this in the past. It's been previewed before.
But it was phase 5 last year when we talked about it.
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. That's yeah.
Now we're up to phase 8.
It can be
3 more phases.
Yeah,
Sick.
at this rate, the sky's the limit for what phase we could be on a year from now. Can be plucked physically or electronically. Electromagnetic pulse can be sent in response to a trigger. There is envelope control, so it can be really drawn out.
Dampened.
Yes. It's superimposed on natural sound to temper it.
Yeah.
Is how the quote they use. There's a swell mode to hold it indefinitely.
Huh, like EBO style kind of.
This is not a very particularly technical way to describe it, but it injects energy to the hold resonance to play more pads, like that sort of padsy sounds. And it's mixed mode, so you can have the electronic trigger and still pluck it.
Yep.
So
That's
you can do
awesome.
both, which I kind of assume they would just have one or the other. You can even kind of fuck with it by like
I saw that.
yeah, like the pluck
looked
hits and then
cool.
you like hold it down, or basically because this is such a physical world instrument.
Acoustic.
Like the way you hold it and the way you're doing it, and like you can fuck with it in really interesting ways. And my final note on this is just cool.
Yeah.
Like that's all I can say. It's really cool. I
It
think this is a really I think this is awesome. I'm excited for this to be productized or productized so that I can get it, because I'm kind of a little tired of just seeing these demos and being like, that's cool. When can I get this?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I feel like that was our top pick for the most part last year.
Yep.
When we were talking about it. Did we say what this is? Korg, right? Did we mention it was Korg?
I think I said the whole thing.
Korg Berlin? Yeah. Last year it was phase 5, and I think we were all kind of glowing about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's still in development, because last year they said like it was just kind of a concept.
Yeah.
This year with the phase 8 version, it definitely seems like this will be a actual product soon, I hope. This was my silver as well, by the way.
Oh, excellent.
The only reason why it wasn't my gold is because it's still clearly in prototype phase.
Yeah. It does look a little bit more like a finished product than the last time we saw it.
Yeah.
Like it actually had like a proper faceplate. It does look like it's evolving closer to product, but still no ETA.
Yeah. I'm super excited about it, but I don't like not knowing when or if it will actually ever exist. So I don't want to be too excited for it.
We talked about this last year too, is if they're like, okay, we're not going to turn this into a product. Here's the schematic. Here's the design. Everyone go make, like if they open source the hardware and just have people do it, that's fine too. Whatever it is, get it out of just drawings and get out of my dreams and get into my car is what I'm trying to say.
So I feel like they're probably teasing because they honestly don't know if this is marketable.
Right.
Like,
yeah, definitely.
I thought it was. We're all super excited about it, but I was
fucking
looking.
Weirdos.
Exactly.
Like, don't take our advice on anything.
I made the mistake of glancing at the YouTube comments for the Sonic State videos about this thing, and like people were just shitting all over it. Like, they're like, "Oh, I'll wait for the VST version," and like no joke, like shit like that. People saying, go back and make me a new MS-20 and shit like that. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Like not embracing
and so
this thing at all.
Yeah, and so the comments for dog shit are like, this is blowing my mind. I've been waiting this all my life. Like, I hope people aren't making decisions about what to turn into a product based on YouTube
feedback. Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
If Behringer isn't proven the point already, like everything's been done to fucking death at this point. So anyone deviating from the norm, please.
Yeah, the phase 8, it's a fresh concept. It's interesting. It's experimental. I wrote down here, it's expressive and tactile, and seemingly the best of both worlds. Of blending acoustic and electronic.
Agreed.
100%. Yeah.
And it just sounds neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Like I said,
Like,
it's just cool.
It's like I don't know, like a fucking mutable rings to the 10th power, and actually physical. It's
but also the joy of like that first time you got a contact mic and we're just like running around the house being like, what can I fucking hit with this thing? Like, I think like just the fun of making music in the real space, I think is going to bring all of that back.
Agreed.
So that was my silver. And
mine as well. What's your silver, Nick?
Well, I'll shift a little bit. Silver, surprise, I didn't expect this one to be on the list, but actually, Pittsburgh Modular Voltage Lab 2. As an owner of the first one, looking at the differences with the sequencer and the oscillators, it's a lot more interesting in some ways than the original. I think the original was like, we figured out a way to like wavefold non-sine waveforms and like implemented it, and this one seems a lot weirder. It's obviously a large undertaking to get it. Right now you have to get the sequencer and the panel, and it's like around $2,000. Probably not anything that I will ever be using, but I like to see the advancements in oscillator technology. I'd like to see them release just the oscillator standalone. That's something I could probably get behind. But yeah, it's just cool to see them still releasing some stuff, and I thought it was an improvement of the original, which to be honest, I don't use very often. But yeah, I was actually going to also list the Phase 8 as silver, but I just figured I'd pick from another on the list.
You didn't want all of us to be in the same space for silver.
Yeah.
The Voltage Lab, I thought all of the sound demos sounded cool. Yeah. I really liked it. It wasn't anything I was gravitating towards. The thing that still I kept coming back to, and we talked about in Discord, is that price tag is daunting.
Yeah, especially for the Create Audio connection. They've landed at a very similar price point to what they hit before.
Yeah.
Now, I know, granted, they're going to be able to manufacture a lot more, but I expected it to be at least like a little lower, or like some cut, or like a smaller version, or like buy the voice without the sequencer and it's this much, like kind of thing.
Because like for that much, you have now entered a zone that is, there's a lot of choices.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to imagine somebody picking that with that 2000, unless you've got a studio that already has all of those other things and you want, you have $2,000 laying around it, you want to buy one more thing. I just don't see from a market point of view where that fits, who that buyer, who is the buyer for that, because
agreed,
I don't know them.
Because some people seem to be like freaking out about it. It's nothing that I would really want a ton or would save up for sure. But I like it from the standpoint of like it's a Michael Johnson freak out on some oscillator shit. But I would love it if they just made a module too.
I would love the bits and pieces of that I can see. And if they do it as part of like the Safari series, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so wait, are we now in the gold territory?
You already know what my gold was.
So you're out. You're
out.
gone.
I'm
you're
out
done.
of this race. I'm done. Going home.
All right, so my gold. This should be a surprise to absolutely no one. The SysEx devices.
Oh yeah.
Berlin wide range oscillator.
It's Chaos Devices, Dave.
No, it isn't. It will never be. It's SysEx. This is their new addition to the Leibniz binary subsystem.
Looks insane.
This is. There was a little bit of a back and forth on the Discord, and it sort of made me sort of like come up with a way to say
Who's Discord?
The SysEx dumpster Discord.
Oh, our Discord.
Oh.
Tell me more about it.
How would you get access to it? I don't even know how do you get onto that.
It's super easy. You just log into Patreon and you subscribe to SysEx Dumpster, $5 a month.
Oh.
Join our budding little community of weirdos and freaks. Continue, Dave.
I'm so unnerved how good you are at this.
That's less than I spend on chlorine in a week. I like to have chlorine.
That's hard to follow. So, but the I forget who I was talking to on the Discord. But there was back and forth about Dresno, and Dresno has been typically been the heart of a Leibniz system. This could replace this. This could be the first time you could have a Dresno-less Leibniz starter kit. Like this, and the Jena is a wild complex oscillator for miles. It's solving a lot of problems in the Leibniz system, not problems, but shortcomings. I think it's great. If you're into the Leibniz system, I think this is a no-brainer. I think this is up there with Dresno or Lipsk as like essential additions to it. If you're not, honestly, this and the Jena might be something to look into.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that kind of cracks this whole system open in a way. When I saw it, and a few other people I know who like weren't as into it are like, oh shit, this I could get behind. Because seeing like how that works with Jena to make like a wavetable oscillator and hearing some of those samples, I was like, all right, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's a whole other level to it for sure.
So yeah, that was my gold. And I will gush about this in a deep dive later. Because everything else on this list, everything else from Superbooth, I can't say with certainty I'm going to get. Like, a lot of stuff was really cool. I really liked it. This is...
When does it come out?
Yeah.
Still just pre-orders now.
It's only like $250 too, or something,
Yeah.
or less than that.
It's real cheap. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's cheaper than a Dresno,
right.
which I think is also a very
That's awesome.
compelling. Yeah, it's. I'm not going to get rid of mine because I think Dresno is a crucial component to this. But just adding this on top of it, it's a very versatile system. It just adds another dimension to something I'm a huge fan of. So yeah, that's my gold. Nick, what is your gold?
My gold.
What's your gold,
Probably,
Nick?
not one you would expect, but the BoardBrain Optics V2, which is a module that does ADAT in and out, and it looks to be like the perfect complement to Push 3 standalone, which has ADAT I/O. There was a BoardBrain Optics V1, but it had some bleed issues, and people were complaining, especially I think the 8th channel was like leaking or had noise or something like that. And this is in and out, and it's DC coupled. You can do CV in and out with it. If they nail this and the sound doesn't leak and it's quality, I would definitely get one. And probably most of the people that have Push 3 that use their modular. It's kind of like the no-brainer expansion for audio I/O on that.
So we've not talked about ADAT a lot on this podcast. Where do you use it? Like, could we take like a little bit of a detour here and just talk a little bit about why that's an important innovation?
Typically only used it with my audio interface, at which point it got me 8 channels of input and output at up to 48 kilohertz. You can multiplex it and get 4 channels at 96 kilohertz if you want. I've tried it before. I didn't really need that. But yeah, it's basically I/O expander. So in the case that you have a Push 3 standalone, this would be a nice way to get you 8 channels in and 8 channels out, which is no small deal. Yeah, that'll open it up a lot. That'll make it so you can kind of not need a sound card and still do multi-channel stuff with Push 3. Or any other interface that you have that uses ADAT that you can connect this to. It kind of expands for your modular.
So how does that segue with your discovery earlier this month about Push 3 as a standalone device? What impact does this ADAT have on that?
That lets me do multi-track recording a lot more easily. Right now I'm just doing stereo in and out because that's all I need. But this will kind of open it up so I don't need a mixer as much in my modular, and I can just kind of route channels in and out. So that makes me kind of happy. I'd be into working that way for sure. Again, like I don't really need it right now. I'm only doing like a synth or 2 out and just multi-tracking them, or like individually multi-tracking them. But this would just make it so I can just do all that shit. You know, I wouldn't need my Apollo really, or the ADAT expander I already have in the rack, which would be kind of nice.
And so is this adapter, is this out or is it still pre-order?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. They're saying sometime this summer. So a lot of people are excited about this because they just don't like the flaws of the original one.
Right.
So they just want that. And there's the nice switching for AC coupled. So, or DC rather, whichever one lets you use
DC coupled, yeah.
You can choose. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
It's not something I use for whatever. I mean, it's not through any sort of personal preference. It's just nothing I have has exposed ADAT as a protocol. So it's a little bit of a black box. Just when I saw that, I was like, that's cool, but doesn't apply to me. You know,
the nice thing about ADAT is it does just kind of work. You don't ever have to configure anything. Generally, just put the cables in and 8 extra channels show up on your interface.
That seems like too good to be true. Like,
it is. It's an old technology, so it does work very well when it works because it's all generally light pipe. So you're just connecting those. And yeah, right now there's no good, like there is a company that makes an output expander for the Push specifically that uses ADAT, but not an input expander yet. That's a little more complicated. So this does both.
Nice.
Which would be super sick.
So that was
the top 3s.
Was the top 3. So I still have more.
I have a runner-up as well.
Well, I'm actually the rest of mine are remember I'm going with the good, bad, and the ugly.
Oh yeah, well,
mine are bad and ugly at this point.
Sure. Yeah, I have mediums.
So if you guys have something that's a little bit less, let me know. I'll come back in whenever you guys are ready to start shit talking things.
Sure.
That's what
So I have a runner-up that did not make the top 3, but I feel like deserves a mention. You already touched on it briefly. Polyend Tracker Plus.
Yeah.
I have to bring that up just because.
100%.
We've talked about the tracker.
We've talked about the tracker a lot. And
I got a tracker a while ago and tinkered with it and was like, I like this. And then over the last year, just absolutely everything is in tracker. I really went from like kind of passively using it, tinkering, to holy shit, this is amazing. And all of the minor complaints that I have are addressed in the Plus.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I've had complaints about the tracker since it first came out. I've always said that I enjoyed it, but it was lacking certain things that I felt like would make it better. And maybe someone in Polyend listens to our podcast, maybe our feedback mattered, or other people, or read my mind. Yeah, for years now, I've been saying that it needs to be stereo, and they need to have a drum machine in there and some synths.
And the synth engine, I think, is a really big, even though it may not be like your main synth, your main lead, having that as a capability is just so crucial to making this a device that a lot of people can gravitate towards.
Yes, I feel like the synth engines are versatile enough that it'll be very interesting and can be percussive.
Yeah.
Or you can use the percussive engine that they put into this thing. The fact that you can control it all with macros that you can sequence, that's really neat. That's the thing that I always couldn't really wrap my head around. Like, I've been saying for years now that I would love a synth in there or a drum machine, but I couldn't figure out exactly how you would manipulate it when you only have 2 instrument, channels per track.
Right.
But you can do it all with these macros. And also they added 8 more tracks that you can use simply for manipulating the synth engine parameters and these macros. Cool. So that's pretty fucking cool, in my opinion.
And the price is right. It's a little bit more. It's obviously more than the tracker, and especially with the tracker basically bottoming out at like, what was that, $240 or something like that. So this is more than that, but it's still under $1,000. I mean, it's still,
the price hurts a bit, in my opinion.
I think it's fine.
That's my biggest
for what
complaint.
it does, especially now, because I watched the Deluge go from the $700 when I bought it to like $1,400 now.
Wow. Sure.
And they've been really upfront about, hey, listen, we don't want to do this. This is just how much stuff costs. Like, Synthrom has been very upfront about like why they need to do it. So when I saw the Tracker Plus, I'm like, fuck, this could be like a $1,200 instrument. The fact that it was less than that, I was actually really excited about.
I feel like the price creep when it comes to Polyend stuff has been a little excessive. Like, I got my first tracker, I think it was $450 after the discounts and such, like 10% off. I bought it, I think it was a Perfect Circuit sale, or maybe shout out to Ben Davis, my Sweetwater rep. I think he hit me with a 10% discount. Whatever the case may be, I paid $450 for it, for the original tracker. I remember that number because I was very happy with that number. I thought that was a great value, for that amount of money. The OG tracker, people are selling them used now for like $350. The Tracker Minis is $699 retail, which I've tried to get into twice now. I bought one, sold it because I didn't like the workflow on the Mini. Bought one again before I went to France last month.
Oh shit!
Sold it as soon as I got home. Like, I did not get along with it.
I have a very simple. The Tracker's perfect in the form that it is. The Mini is a mistake. I think I consider them so different and such a misstep that I don't even consider it.
I'm so glad that the Tracker Plus is not a Mini, and that they're keeping the OG interface with this new feature set.
I think the Mini got a lot of hype. I think a lot of people were like, this is amazing. I think there were enough people going, I'd rather have all of this stuff in the Tracker again. And I think that's what prompted this design. That's my guess. Like, you don't see people using it the way you see the original Tracker still being used.
Right. And it's one of the first things I thought of when I got home was like, okay, I'm going to put this thing on reverb. I did not get along with it. And I was sitting there thinking about getting an OG one again. And then the Superbooth announcement for Tracker Plus. I was like, okay, I'm glad I hesitated because this seems perfect.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm not perfect is that price. Like, it's almost double the OG tracker for features that I feel like should have fucking been there from the start.
There's a lot more. The hardware is a lot more substantial. Hardware just costs more. You're right.
It says it has more memory too and things like that. I know memory's not cheap necessarily, but it just seems a little hefty price-wise. I plan on getting one. It's not something I immediately put a pre-order in because that is a big chunk of change, in my opinion. And why it's even more expensive than the Mini when it's going to have essentially the same OS. Like they said, these features are going to be in the Mini too.
Right.
So I don't.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it's a little. I'm like, okay, why does it warrant like $200 extra over the Mini? Price is the only thing I have to complain about, and that's why it didn't make my top 3.
That's reasonable.
Price. Yeah,
I mean, it did make my top 3 because it was announced before Superbooth.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it right at the start or something? Because I swear I didn't really.
No, it was before that. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I must have just had my head up my ass or something. I didn't realize it. Or maybe I just don't know when Superbooth started. I thought it was a Superbooth announcement.
I mean, they definitely were at Superbooth, and it was definitely there. I think if I hadn't been spending so much time with the tracker over this last year, and honestly, a lot of the next record I'm making is partially going to be built on
purely tracker.
Last one was all Deluge. Now it's going to be a combination of the two. I don't know. This is like the bougiest way to put this, but like, even if they are kind of ripping me off for like $100, I'm going to do it anyway because I really fucking. I want the beefed up version of the thing that I use literally every fucking day.
Yeah.
I could easily see myself centering like live performances.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. My monocle just fell into my champagne flute. I don't know. I feel very dirty saying something like that because you're right. It probably could be a lot cheaper, but there's a part of me that was like,
it's not.
It wasn't outrageous, and I was just like, yeah, all right, whatever.
It's not an outrageous price. It's not. I mean, fuck. It's what, $8.99 retail.
Yeah.
Compare that to the Torso S4, which I think is the same price,
Jesus.
right?
Yeah.
Or the fucking Digitac 2, right?
Yeah,
which is what, even more?
I think it's even more. Yeah, the Digitac 2, more.
It's at least 1,000.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. And yeah, I would take this.
I take it over all of those.
Either of those,
Easy.
But and maybe I'm just clinging to that first really nice price that they released the OG tracker on, and just I have to accept that,
those days are gone.
Those days are gone.
I mean, it's hard. You can
Everything's expensive now.
Yeah, for like what, $250 used now. Or
yeah,
something.
probably they dropped. Yeah, they dropped. Well, it was in preparation for the Mini.
Right.
Everyone just unloaded theirs, and I was like, so yeah, that was your.
That was my runner-up.
So Nick, your runner-up.
Runner-up. Okay, so it's kind of a combo deal. Shouldn't be a big surprise, but runner-up is the Tip Top Buchla 259T dual complex. What is it? God damn it!
It's the
complex waveform generator.
It's the big guy.
The big guy.
The big
that thing. So
we like the biggins.
that caught me off guard.
Talking about modules, you perv.
Also perv. Like that was the magazine from Married with Children.
Oh, was
that
it?
Al
Oh, yeah,
Bundy
it was.
Biggins.
Biggins. Holy shit!
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's where my mind went immediately. But that was the one that sort of, kind of weirdly crept out of nowhere because like all of that other Buchla stuff the Tip Top did, like had like previews for 6 months and all this, and then that just.
I didn't catch it till after Superbooth was over, and I was like, oh, it was actually Luke sent me like, look at this thing.
Yeah.
So the 258T is kind of the simpler dual analog oscillator, and this one has all the nifty routing between the buses, or the bus rather, that routes between the two oscillators. Like it's kind of like most complex waveform generators, oscillators are copying this module. So they released it. And one of the interesting things was there's volt per octave and then the tip-top art switch. Mm-hmm. What is art? Well, it's their tip-top tuning thing that is used on their polyphonic modular and now other modules. What it is, it's basically like MIDI, in that it's sending like, I want you to be this note, and the electronics be like, okay, I'll make this note because I can do that with my analog and digital electronics.
And it is digital. It is a digital format, yeah.
It's an analog oscillator. It's digital control over it. The question is, will anybody ever pick up this format. So the NerdSeek sequencer now has a 2 HP expander where it can send art, which is interesting, but that's also like kind of the easier part. They have the tip-top modules that support this format. Now this tip-top Buchla module that supports it. It's rad. I hate fucking tuning things. I want things that just kind of, we'll play exactly this frequency if you want. But will people ever like get on board with putting this into their shit to support the tip-top framework?
So you and I had talked about this briefly, about the idea of, at the end of the day, if nobody other than tip-top does it, their support for it internally, you could get a lot out of just what they've done with art. So it would be great if more companies adopted this. The likelihood does seem kind of low. It's a new protocol. You're right. The output, spit it out, is one thing. Reading it and doing something proactive with it and turning that into like meaningful polyphonic structure, the probability is really low. Now, for me, the question is, does tip-top do enough that warrants this being like, I'm going to get a couple more tip-top modules and really take advantage of it, or is it just already a dead technology?
Yeah. Or can they like go to people and be like, hey, put these 2 pins on the back of your module and these like 10 cents of components and like,
here's some code.
We'll support this thing, or you can work with our system. Then it could catch on. But like long term, will it? Who knows? You know?
And I think there's also a problem with it being a company that's driving this, not an independent entity.
Sure. Because the tuning problem, that's been around for a minute. Like people work around it. You can get tuners that will listen to an oscillator and then automatically calibrate. Like the Expert Sleepers FH2 will do that. You like have it put the oscillator output into an input and get a perfect map. The polyphonic part is interesting because like, who actually wants a polyphonic modular becomes the question.
Really good question.
That's what I was just
Why
gonna
do you
say.
want to do that?
I'm kind of opposed to this whole concept, to be honest, because
your problem is even deeper than just this is an external protocol on top of what we already have.
It's not deeper. I just feel like it's a lost cause. Like I feel like you're trying to push modular into a direction where it's just not strong.
Right.
In fact, if we're gonna dip into some of my tangents that I have about Superbooth, you'll notice that all the stuff that I picked on my good list are not modular.
Right.
They're all standalone devices that are semi-modular.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of not happy with modular right now, where it's at. And I feel like things like this kind of pushing in that direction takes it further from what I think is interesting about modular.
No, I think there's something with where you're going there, and I've seen the same thing. It's like we're getting away from kind of the core concepts of modular synthesis in a way to like these digital systems, which is still cool that these exist and are supported, but like what's the actual purpose and what's the benefit over having it be in a computer at some points?
So Leibniz.
Oh, yeah.
That's entirely exists within Xeoc.
But it's hackable. I mean, you hacked this system.
I did hack it.
You created your own module.
I
based
did.
on that architecture, and that's kind of cool.
I did, but like, I'm not making that a product. It's just for myself.
But you could.
Right.
I could, but like no one else has.
Yeah.
That exists entirely within them. It's an entirely digital system. It's a system that exists outside of the protocol, but they have created enough that makes that a system worth getting into or diving into. And it's also a pretty big violation of the spirit of module. But I think it's added something really interesting to it.
Yeah.
But I think it's because they have controlled both the vision and the implementation of this. Art, on the other hand, you have this feeling that Tip-Top hopes everyone else gets involved, or at the very least, it doesn't seem like they have created everything that makes it like the same as Leibniz, where if you get in on this, we've got your back. We're gonna keep doing this. This is gonna be something you can really dive into.
We've all seen how they've handled the ZDSP.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a really good point.
Right?
That is a good point.
Yeah. I mean, they had numbers. It was open source. I mean, they were really hoping more and more people, and it was Broken Silicon and one other person I'm like blanking on. I mean, that is not hotcakes. They did not catch on. Honestly, would we even still be talking about ZDSP if it wasn't for Sean Costello?
Good point. Because it's almost like at some point I have to view it as like you built a polysynth. Forget about modular.
Right.
You built a polysynth and you can swap banks of like oscillators or filters. And in some sense, like that's cool if you get someone to make like a Waldorf 8, but it's obviously like just now saying that if they made that, it like detracts from their product line kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a complicated thing. Are you going to get someone to make like part of your polyphonic system or even give a shit about your tuning standard?
Yeah, I feel like modular was to fill in the gaps around desktop synths and cover the territory that, was being neglected.
Yeah.
Trying to now replicate things that already exist outside of modular and make it modular so that you can spend 3 times the amount of money for the same results.
Yeah.
Just so you have a few extra modulation CV points is ridiculous in my opinion.
No, I agree. It's a tough sell.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about the cables are like USB-C cables and it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. That said, that oscillator, independent of art, still looks interesting.
Yeah. And in some senses I look at it as, okay, you built a polysynth that you bought that's distributed and that there's a power supply that you can replace. Like you can service it more so than like an Arturia whatever brute in like a number of years might be harder, but I don't know. And anymore too, like I'm getting obsessed with these like Max for Live MPE capable synths that are like $50 that are fucking crazy as fuck and they sound like as good as any of the hardware that I have. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this stuff is getting crazy now. That drum machine Opal thing that you were like wanted to use, like I am now into their 4's Chiral. It's another Max for Live synth that they make, and the thing sounds fucking crazy, and it's all MPE capable, and you like there's a mod matrix that lets you like target all the MPE shit, and it's fun as hell. It's good.
Yeah, in the box stuff has come a long way, I feel like, especially in the last 2 years. And I was missing out on a lot of that because I was just kind of not paying attention to in the box stuff.
Same here.
To a point, but I feel like it warrants attention again, especially now that things are getting so expensive. And that kind of tips me off on one of my other tangents too. Like I was trying to find stuff that was being released from modular at Superbooth that I found really interesting, and there really wasn't any that really caught my eye except for like the Homicide. First, I got excited because I love distortion and I loved the Homicide VST.
Yeah,
and then I sat there for a minute. I'm like, why am I being suckered into this? Right? Like, why am I being excited for this? It's a $400-some module that is based on a 15-year-old VST.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, yay, it's stereo, but do I really need yet another $400-some single-use distortion effect in my modular? Like, it's really hard to justify that price now, especially when it's something that is it already exists in the box, and it's kind of like a day late and $1 too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, if there was something unique about it being in modular form, I think that would maybe make it a little bit more exciting.
And I'm not opposed to VSTs in
sure.
Yeah, that's
module,
what I'm saying. Like, I think there's a way to do it.
Yeah, it's just like when at the same time though, I'm like, is that where we are with modular right now? That's what we're getting excited about is 15-year-old technology now released as a module. See, you say there is stuff coming out right now that's exciting. I feel like it's very few and far between right now. Like most of the stuff that I was looking at on like just looking at YouTube videos of what was announced at Sonic State, quad VCA. That's not what got me excited about modular. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking back, like how long we've been in modular, and I was trying to think of the stuff what got me into it, what got me excited, and I'm just not seeing a lot of that creativity anymore. It seems like things have gotten stale and overpriced. And that was the note I had for concerning most Eurorack announcements at Superbooth. I had a few words down: gimmicky, redundant, boring, overpriced. And I feel like these four words can be applied to most modules that were announced at Superbooth.
Okay, but I will take a step back and go, over the last 10 years, you could have said that about the state of modular every year. That there was always going to be somebody out there making another VCA.
Sure.
There's somebody out there making...
But I feel like it's hit critical mass.
That is fair.
Especially now, like, in comparison to how inexpensive and effective things are in the box, like we were just talking about.
Oh, totally. Yes.
Or creative standalone devices, like all these desktop units that are coming out that are like semi-modular, not super expensive, do more than one thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And can be CV controlled. You know, it's...
But the exciting part of that is still the fact that you're connecting it to a modular, even though you may be using
Sure, you're connecting it to 10-year-old modules.
That's not a that's not
that
a
was
bad
the stuff that was
that's not a bad thing.
Those were the hits, and like we're still leaning on that. I feel like to prop up this entire industry of modular right now, which is just oversaturated with uncreative shit.
Yeah,
maybe that's a bit harsh, but that's kind of where
I see what you're saying.
No, I see what you're saying.
I think this is almost more of an indictment of just like capitalism, where people feel like they've got to make another quad VCA because that's what their company needs to make in order to be relevant. We don't need the 500th version of a triangle core LFO.
Yeah. I found myself getting nostalgic for like old shit that is hard to get these days.
Yeah,
you know?
I want a wired Jag, and they're really fucking hard to get.
I want a Time Safari Mark 1 and a fucking QMMG. And you know what I mean? Like you know, just an AFG, you know? The stuff that pulled me into this in the first place. Just seeing like a lot of lack of creativity and things going for astronomical prices.
I don't know. The lack of creativity, though, I still look at I think what Xeox is doing. The stuff they're doing.
They're one of the exceptions.
I think what they're doing is
coming
exciting.
up with hits.
Yeah, I think what they do is exciting.
Sure.
I think there is a handful of really exciting companies and a lot of, you probably don't need to be doing this. And you're right. 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. It was everyone doing really interesting things and maybe a handful of people doing, you probably don't need to be doing this.
Right.
That balance has shifted. I don't think that is undermining the work that the people who are putting effort into are doing. It's just the signal to noise is a little bit different now.
And there's some heavy hitters, like Scott hasn't done anything new in like kind of a minute now.
Yeah,
even though we're on the cusp of the new Stills and Hammer, but have been for a while.
And the Inferno.
Inferno
for that. Yeah.
But it's taken a while.
But even like with Scott, like I feel like his original designs are still classics.
Oh yeah,
they're still hitting. It's weird. It's been years when the first piston Honda came on the scene, or
like 2010 or something like that, or 2011.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
That said, I got the Mark III. I get a fuck ton of use out of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think like he's someone who did continue to innovate and even iterate over his designs with those different versions of them.
Oh yeah, I'm not knocking his sequels. I'm just saying like those modules, like that's still just it's the next version of something that came out 15 years ago at this point, and we're not seeing anything that's blowing this stuff away. Like, it's like weird to me. And we have VCV rack now, a lot of people embracing hybrid systems. Like that covers all your bread and butter, all your basic utilities. You know what I mean? Like you don't need another company coming up with another VCA. That's just
I 100% agree.
VCA. You know what I mean?
I think it would be really tough to find anyone who would frankly justify or get excited about somebody having the 500th VCA.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say like modular's dead. I'm just saying it's not in a great state right now, in my opinion, and I feel like there's a lot of room for creativity. Again.
I will agree with you, although my assessment is I think the signal to noise is what's off. I think there's a lot of noise, and the signal I think is really great right now. I think there's some cool stuff. I think what used to be half was cool, half was dog shit. Now it's 5% really cool, 95% is dog shit.
Yeah. Like there's stuff like Board Brain Exelon. I think that's an amazing mixer that finally someone made this. But you're right. The signal to noise is a little off in some ways. There's still some good shit, but I think we're at the point where people are going to look at this now and be like, all right, what's all this shit?
Yes, exactly.
What's all this shit good at or not?
God damn, I never even thought of that. Getting into this in 2024.
Right. At
what
this
the
price point.
Yeah. What the fuck are you doing?
At this price point with this level of saturation.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even figure out what the hell you want to do? You know what I mean?
No, that's really tough. Yeah.
Just use VCV rack and figure out what I wanted to buy from that kind of thing.
Right. And using VCV rack as a try before you buy, I think can't imagine at this point getting into modular and not doing that, going that route.
Cyrus has adapted to VCV.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah. Someone who was kind of like a Eurorack whale, so to speak. Like price really wasn't a concern for him. You know what I mean? He would buy whatever he thought was cool. Whatever new flashy thing came out that appealed to him, he would simply buy.
Right.
And he filled up racks quickly. Now he's starting to sell stuff because he discovered VCV rack a few months back, and he was like, why do I have some of this shit sitting in my rack that costs, $400, $500 a piece when I can just have 10 of them in VCV rack for nothing? Yeah. You know what I mean? In this hybrid system, he bought a Expert Sleepers ES9, and now he has a hybrid system, and he's trimming down what is actually worth having in that rack and supplementing it with hybrid stuff in VCV,
A lot of that stuff, though, I've already considered like a sunk cost. I already bought it.
Yeah.
I already have it. Like, I look at like LFOs and my VCAs and all of the utility shit that I have now. I'm like, I already bought it.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Sorry for going on a rant there.
It was a good rant, man.
It's a good discussion.
I mean, it's way better than me just randomly shit talking things people worked really hard on, and then I just come along like a. No, we're already an hour and 50 minutes into this recording.
Well, it's episode 50. We can go far. Our editor won't mind.
Our editor needs a break. Your editor is very tired. Yeah, no, I just have shit talking. It's
Digitac Mark II.
No, it's even dumber than that. Digitac Mark II was like. I just looked at it, I was like, okay, yeah, all right, whatever. Mine was the Sound Workshop Wiggler.
No clue what that is.
So it had
No, I did watch this. I remember the name.
And it has like there's keys, and it's on like a board that sort of floats.
Yes.
And you can wiggle as you push down a key. You can wiggle.
Yes.
So it's nothing but vibrato.
Isn't that what the expressive Osmos does or whatever?
Yeah. The whole thing is just like on this wobbling surface.
Wobbly sounds.
It just makes wobbly sounds. That's it. And so
wibbly wobbly woo woo.
I just came from my cello lesson, and I remember the lesson I had a couple years ago on vibrato. Yeah. He's like showed me how to do it, and he's like, this is a very key component of the instrument. And he was showing me how to do like fast vibrato and like long, like really interesting ones. Precisely. Yeah, absolutely nailing it. That is flawless cello impression. But I remember at the end of it, he's like, okay, you've got to go home and you're going to come back in a week for your next lesson. But during this week, go nuts. Just like vibrato everything. Because next week, my lesson is to show you how not to use it.
Yeah.
It needs to be done judiciously. You don't just vibrato everything because that sounds like shit. It's going to make people dizzy. There's a reason everyone doesn't just vibrate every note they play. It sounds like shit. When it happens, it's wonderful and exciting. If you do it literally every note you play, people are going to get seasick.
Yeah. It's like the continuum thing. You're going to pitch bend that note too.
Exactly.
Oh. What's up, Mr. fucking Portamento?
You can't just do that all the time. And this instrument, the Wiggler, it just seems like it is a violation of that rule. It is like whatever.
Sorry, I'm gonna keep vibrating sounds.
So you've reflected the Wiggler.
Wibbly wobble.
Oh my god!
Holy shit! No, that's wow. But what you've just described, or what you've just mimicked,
I love vibrato, Dave. I want everything to vibrate.
You just want everything to vibrate constantly.
I think your cello instructor is wrong. I put that sine wave LFO modulation on every oscillator.
I went to a porn store once and got a vibrato.
Bag of purple vibratos.
Lifelike. With vein.
Double-ended.
Oh my god.
That double-ended vibrato. That's what they should have named this.
Double-ended vibrato wiggler.
Got one of those MPE dildos for me.
The only other thing I have is
made in Berlin.
Is the Bufacco One Eye Rio?
Yeah. I had that too on my list.
So on paper, it seems really cool. That said, every demo sounded exactly the fucking same.
Yeah.
It did.
I watched a million of them. Low rumble, kind of cinematic, had like a Hans Zimmer vibe
Yeah.
with high-end hiss, end of list.
I wanted to like it more.
Same here.
I watched a single demo. Unlike you, I didn't watch them all. I'm glad I didn't, because like I watched one and I was like, meh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I need to watch anymore. And if I'd have watched more and just heard more of the same, I'd have probably been angry.
Yeah.
But
I
like, yeah.
didn't get angry, but I definitely got like more and more disappointed because I'm
Yeah.
just like, this could have been really cool.
Yeah.
You just made the thing that makes the one thing, and that's it.
Yeah.
Real
The fact,
disappointing.
no.
In
I think all their shit sucks, to be honest. That's my spicy take.
fact, no.
Yeah. I think
You caught me off guard with that one. I got nothing.
That's my hot take.
Yeah, and I probably would have been more interested if I didn't remember that Stylophone has that standalone
yeah.
little noise
Yeah.
drone box coming
Yeah.
out soon for like $200.
That thing looks crazy.
That just kind of blows away what Bafaka was trying to do there.
Yeah, and I got that Elmira from Neutral Labs.
That
like
too,
it
yeah.
is head and shoulders above this.
Yeah, I was interested, and then I saw it was digital, and then I was like, "Oh, I see what you're doing here. I don't know why this exists as a fucking Eurorack module.
Yeah,
Like it'll be in VCV, I'm sure, if it's all
Oh, yeah.
digital. Like
all
that's
the Bafaka
easy,
stuff is. Yeah.
right?
And I had some problems with some of those.
Really,
Yeah.
it's a bummer. All their shit is just like 90% of the way there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I did one more note.
Ooh, what you got?
The Timeless Garden Horizon experimental synth.
What the? fuck
No
was
idea
that?
what you.
So
just
it
said.
is it is Timeless Garden, and
I like
it's
the name.
I liked the way this looked at first, and it's called it's a Horizon experimental synth, and it is a weird interface. It's got like nothing. It's not a box. It's got two giant like triangle levers on the side. Like all the buttons are in weird places, almost like they've just been thrown onto like this really kind of like interesting painting. It looks like a painting.
Oh, I did see a picture of this. Yeah, it's the collaboration with Menki.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's on my list too. The Menki plus Whimsical Wraps Horizon.
That's it. Yeah, same thing.
Okay, so it's Whimsical Wraps. I didn't know the Timeless Garden thing at all.
So I think that's who's manufacturing it. I could be wrong.
Oh, that's their like combo company neg. Kind of.
Yes, and like collaboration, and sonically, it does some interesting things. What got me though was after the first video I saw was they were like, it's somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000
Oh no shit! I didn't catch
Yeah.
that.
That's pretty excessive.
for what it seems like a little bit of a gimmicky type
Yeah.
of. I mean, the sounds were cool, and like as a interesting like sort of like artifact, it's interesting.
Yeah.
That is so much money for something that is you're not going to perform with.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Tenori On. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That thing of like people were more excited to see it than they were to hear it.
Right.
And I think this is kind of along those same lines.
Novelty.
Yeah, I didn't hear
Gimmicky.
anything that sounded that great, and I looked at it. I'm like, "Oh, this looks like something from a Star Trek episode."
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm glad people are doing stuff like this.
Yeah,
And if this was a couple $100, I can see me recommending this to people I know that are into that style of like
I didn't know it was that
performance.
much.
It goes back to
Yeah.
the Voltage Lab for me. When you're talking about that much money,
yeah,
the options, what you're going up against is just, no one's going to buy that over a much more substantial machine.
Falls back to my 4 words.
Hmm.
Gimmicky, redundant, boring, overpriced.
Hmm.
I feel like almost all this shit can fall into one of those categories.
It's the
Yeah.
the GROB theory: gimmicky, redundant, overpriced, boring.
Rob, I like
What's the GROB level on that?
Wow. This is high on that level
High
that I
grob
just
level.
discovered.
High grob.
Yeah. High grob.
We need to move forward with the GROB chart from now on.
Okay.
The GROB metric. I like that. We'll forget by next episode, I'm sure. But
yeah.
but for now, that's going to be our thing. I like it.
I really like this.
Where does it land on the GROB chart?
I'm super into it.
This is blowing my mind. This is the thing that came out of the 50th episode.
Yeah, this is
was
what we-
this new metric.
Yeah.
So wait, does anybody have anything else on their notes?
I had a very minor thing. Last year we talked about the Fine Gear dirt magnet.
I don't remember this.
It's an actual completely CVable tape delay
shit, yes.
saturation thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It last year when we discussed it, it was prototype and they didn't know if it was actually going to be a thing.
And the guy who makes it's like a maniac. Yeah.
Well, it's a thing.
Shit.
They showed it off this year and they said this was the actual product. They said it'll start shipping in a couple weeks. They added a second tape head to it. So now it's a 2-tap delay. And each tap, one is a short, one is a long, and you can mix between the two.
Ooh.
It's full stereo. There were some other changes since last year. I don't remember all of it, but it seemed pretty cool. The only thing not cool, price. Pretty hefty. Bit on the bougie side. It's €1,200. Yeah.
I get it. If it's a real tape delay, I get it.
Yeah.
With full CV over everything, and it has like noise engines and filters and all that.
I mean, that may be justifiable.
I'm not even complaining about that price. I think it's justifiable. It's just going to be out of my budget.
Yeah.
I know that. But, I mean, compared to other tape delays that are out there, I feel like that's actually kind of on the cheaper side of some of these. Like,
what, like Echo Fix is like
exactly
at least 2.
I think it's closer to 3. But yeah, the fact that you can CV everything, I was like, that's
really
that
cool.
makes it stand out in my opinion.
For sure.
But yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that.
Thanks for pointing that out. I could see me getting drunk and hitting
impulse buying it.
That could be the impulse buy.
It even looks like a Dave contraption. Have you seen it? It's just this.
Well, I saw the one from last year.
It doesn't look any better.
That's even better.
It's just this big, ugly box with tape running through it, and it
doesn't look
big dials. Yeah, it doesn't look like they tried to downsize this at all.
Spoiler alert for episode 51. I might be discussing that. Oh, that sounds awesome. Fuck.
It sounded excellent too in the demos. It really did.
Stop. Just stop.
I want to live vicariously through you, Dave, since I can't afford this thing.
I can't either, but I mean, that's
I just
the problem
went
with
to
getting
France.
drunk.
I'm broke for the year.
I got a drinking problem, and nothing stops me from buying shit. God,
end of fucking podcast.
That's the podcast.